gives you butterflies with the songs they play. Oh, Pinoy Radio, Pinoy Radio, perfect way for you to start and end your day. PinoyRadio.com.
Emanating from MCBN Broadcast Center, you're all Filipino radio. PinoyRadio.com. PinoyRadio.com. This year, we'll never get short of surprises. In fact, we step up the game. Hashtag Level Up Goals. The finest hits, outstanding shows, remarkable events. Miracanza Broadcasting Network Incorporated. This is PinoyRadio.com.
Love it.
Bawat minuto ay mahalaga. Give us 30 minutes and you will know what they can offer. Bawat mensahe may kabuluhan. Give us half an hour and we'll keep you up to speed with the current affairs in your area. Business and politics in 30 minutes. BP in 30 with Ron Canton on PinoyRadio.com. BP in 30. Mapapakinggan na. Nandito na sila. Kabayan, kinig na.
Okay, so welcome to the show. This is the program, the newest program on Pinoy Radio, Business and Politics in 30 Minutes. And today we have a special guest. And join me today, this morning, is my co-host, Francis Earl Dakara. Okay, Francis, maybe you should introduce our guest now.
Yes, good morning, Juan. Our guest is, for today, is a Canadian politician from the Liberal Party. He is the member of the Standing Committee on Finance. He is a father of 2 daughters, and he is elected to represent the riding of Vaughan and Woodbridge. And then he also worked in the finance world in 25 years in Toronto, and then also in New York City. Okay, let's all welcome Francesco Sorbar.
Okay, welcome. Welcome to the program, Francesco. Is it Francesco?
Francesco.
Right. So welcome to the program and good morning to you. Good morning to all our listeners, especially your riding. The Woodbridge, Vaughan Woodbridge.
Vaughan and Woodbridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
So your message.
Oh well, good morning, everybody, and nice to be here with you, Nestor. Nice to be here with you, Earl, and speak about business and politics for the next few minutes. And,
Yes.
and say hi to all the residents of Vaughan Woodbridge, but all the individuals listening across the country.
Yes, for sure. There's a lot of people interested with the ongoing national issues such as immigration, NAFTA. The legalization of marijuana, so
immigration,
yes,
maybe immigration
we can
levels,
get some
small issues.
Yeah,
we can get some inputs out of it. But first, let's talk about the updates and upcoming events about your riding, which is the Woodbridge, Vaughan Woodbridge.
Yes, well, you know, at this time of year, because we are the first week of November, you know, it goes without saying our focus right now is on Remembrance Day, and the Remembrance Day ceremony is coming up on the 11th of November. And
yes.
I encourage everybody, it's a Saturday this year, and I encourage everybody to come out and show their respect and gratitude towards our veterans, whether the ones that have sacrificed or whether the ones that are serving now. I think that's probably the biggest focus.
November 11, right?
Yes.
Yes, big event. Earl, do you have any...
yes, first question, soft question first.
for the hard ones.
You have a very nice
hard one.
You have a very nice name, yeah?
Francesco.
It's a Francis.
Yeah. And you are Francis too.
Well, we're both named after the Pope, right? St.
Yes.
Francis, the first Jesuit Pope, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, it's good to know that. Yeah. But it's good to know also for all the listeners from the Filipino community. How did you start as a politician?
Yes.
You know, I've been blessed. My family came here in the early 1960s, and I grew up in northern British Columbia, and I was always a liberal, but I was always passionate about public service.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And about 4 or 5 years ago, I just said to my wife, I said, you know, it's time that I enter.
Yes.
And I've been very blessed throughout my life. God's given me a lot of blessings, and I said, you know what? Let's do this now. Let's take a shot. It's a chance. It's an opportunity. And it's a privilege.
Yes.
And I'm very passionate about helping my constituents and building a better country.
Mm-hmm. Personal question: why liberal?
Why live?
That's a tough one.
It's a tough one. You know
Because
what?
you represent the Liberal Party, right?
It's your core values.
Okay.
And when your core values are multiculturalism, tolerance, diversity, and no party has a monopoly on values.
Correct.
But that's where I've always felt comfortable. I've always felt comfortable in a big tent, as we say politically, a big tent party,
Okay.
and that's been my home.
So this means to say you support all the policies of the Liberal Party,
yeah.
or is there any policy that you think you have to
Did you go
correct?
against?
or it needs to be improved? Or,
You know what?
Do you need to say yes all the time?
No, you
because
don't.
we're going to
no,
ask
no,
you some questions to the policies of the Liberal Party.
Okay.
No, you know what? I think the good thing about being a representative is you need to be true to your values, and you need to make sure that your voice of your constituents is brought to Ottawa. So where there are opportunities or chances that you may disagree or you may offer a differing opinion on a policy, you should do that. That is what being a good representative is.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
And you serve as the voice of the people, especially your writing, which is Vaughan Woodbridge. I always interchange it too.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, one of the recent announcement by the Liberal Party government is the immigration multi-levels for 3 years. They will be encouraging like 310,000 next year, 320,000 the next 2019, and 340,000 immigrants 2020.
Yes.
So how do you see this? Is this a positive thing or?
Unequivocally, this is a positive thing
Yeah.
for the Canadian economy. We know that immigration is needed for birth demographic reasons. We know that many people are retiring. We need to replace those workers, and we also know that immigrants bring an entrepreneurial spirit to this country. They work hard, like all Canadians. They work hard. They follow the rules. They integrate. They want to have their families here. They want to invest in this country, and they want to be proud to be Canadian. And I think we need to encourage that.
Correct.
We also need to make sure that when immigrants come over, that they have the services available, but that they're integrating, that they're becoming part of the Canadian fabric. And that's also very important.
Yes, one of the policies of the Liberal government is to be open to immigrants,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
but-
speaking of
yeah.
open, I have a question. If other countries are closing their doors to immigration, why is it Canada? We maintain the world. How do we say that? We welcome all immigrants in Canada. In fact, with the recent announcement of the Minister of Immigration, they're increasing the numbers.
Correct.
By next year and the next years to come, and in 3 years, 1 million new immigrants in Canada.
Yes, and you know what? I think that stems from the fact that Canada has always been an open, multicultural country, and we're also not dealing with some of the issues that, say, the Europeans are dealing with, where you may have 1,000 or 10,000 people show up one day on your shores, and we don't deal with that. So we don't deal with that pushback from our residents that maybe other European countries have, and you know what, the United States and Australia, they still continue to accept many immigrants. There's a lot of chatter and stuff, but they're still open. We need to be the trend center. We need to be the leader in this.
Are we the
front.
model in this immigration process?
I think we've done a fantastic
among
job.
other countries.
We've done a fantastic job.
Yes.
For sure, absolutely.
Last year, I think we admitted a big chunk of the refugees from Europe, from Syria.
35, 40,000.
There's almost 40,000.
Did we surpass
40,000?
the estimated number? Because what I know is
Oh, yeah.
we're expecting like 10,000. It became 25.
25 and then 40. But you know what? You look to Germany. They took in 800,000
Really?
refugees in 1 year.
Germany. Wow. So
Yeah.
we're not the leader.
Well, we are in terms of it's much easier for Germany just because there's a land they just but ours have to come fly in or come by boat, so it's a different process. But we are doing the right thing. We responded in a way that I'm proud of as a Canadian and proud of as a Liberal.
And you believe that immigration is the key to the growing economy of Canada?
Absolutely, immigration is key to innovation, to growing the economy, to making Canada, what it should be and what it is going to be.
And that supports your stand as a Liberal.
100%. But I think across the political spectrum, most people will view immigration as a positive thing. There are people out there that maybe are a little bit naysayers, but I think once you get the message out there, once you look at the evidence and educate people, immigration is a great thing. My parents were immigrants.
Yes.
My parents came from Italy, and they were given this great opportunity. My grandmother and grandfather came here with 7 children, and
maybe that's the foundation other people are forgetting, right? Once they
Yes.
settled here, they forget already where they came from, the parents and grandparents.
Yes.
That it's all about a matter of time. I was watching a video in a documentary in the early times. The Caucasians were, the majority are in Canada. And then now the numbers are out for the last 5 years. Asians, in fact, well, Philippines is number one.
Yes.
Correct.
188,000 immigrants for the last 5 years.
Yes.
And then second is India and China. All Asia.
Yes. Well, you know what? Diversity is great for this country. And if you look at those economies, the Filipino economy, the Indian economy, the Chinese economy, they're growing very fast. Having those ties, having those large diasporas, much like you have like a large Italian community, a large German community, having those diasporas here, that's only a positive thing for Canada going forward as those economies continue to grow.
Yes, aside from the benefits that we are receiving, Canada is receiving from these immigrants, we have the balancing act of the immigration policy here. Aside from being open, the Canada has the responsibility also to maintain the security, health, and the welfare of the society. How is the Liberal government maintaining this balance?
Well, you know, every person that applies to come to Canada, has to go through an ETA. So if they're just traveling here, they got to go through a process of being screened. And B, if they're coming here to want to move here through express entry, through other avenues in the immigration process, there's a whole screening process that goes through medical checks, security checks, and so forth. And we've done that. We've done that very well. Now, look, no system is perfect.
Yeah.
At the same time, you know, you need to put in your checks and balances in the system, and I think we've struck the right balance.
There's a lot of complaints or like some of the comments on the process of like receiving immigrants, even for going to the PR application, especially for the backlog, something like. What is the Liberal government stand on this?
Well, we've invested a lot of resources, human capital and money in terms of bringing down the backlogs. So if you look at the backlogs for sponsorship of spousal sponsorship, that's gone down. I think it's about 12 months. 12 months now. So we've invested a lot of time, and I'm not going to rhyme off all the statistics this morning because I think we don't want to get lost in that.
Yeah.
But we've made a lot of progress in bringing down wait times for people coming over for spousal, for family reunification, and that's something we should be proud of.
Okay, so let's go to another topic.
Yes. Okay, so immigration is okay. If you have any question, you can call us at 647-955-8820.
Yep.
If you are in North America or you're in Canada. Also, if you are outside, then you can use the Skype line, which is PinoyRadio.com. All right, let's go to NAFTA. Give us updates about NAFTA. What's going on? Are we first round, third round, second round, third round? Are we on the fourth round now?
I believe we're in the fourth round, or we just may have finished the fourth round. You know, trade, Canada is what's considered a small open economy. And as an economist, I like to use that terminology. And we are dependent on trade. And we know that we are heavily involved in trade with the United States. Some 9 million jobs in the United States are dependent on trade with Canada.
Correct. Yeah.
And
vice versa.
And vice versa. And there's supply chains, auto companies, building companies that have building products that go back and forth, and auto parts that go back and forth on the border. And I think when it comes down to that ground level, when you make those arguments or you provide that evidence to both sides, that they're at the end of the day, there should be some sort of recognition of the importance of trade between Canada and the United States. And I think that's what our government is doing. We've had a lot of officials go back
back and forth,
and it's a relationship that you can't take for granted. And you always have to nurture that relationship.
Yes. Because that's very important with our economy. Okay, 20 years of trade relationship between the three countries in North America as a continent: Mexico, U.S., Canada. What do you think is wrong? Why suddenly they want to, have a major revamp or change? What's the disadvantage or advantage? Why is it Trump saying that?
Well, I think when you look at the President Trump and what he played to, what he spoke about during the campaign, about middle class jobs disappearing, about manufacturing jobs disappearing in the United States.
But is it true?
Well, the thing is, when jobs disappear and stuff, you look at the reasons why. There's a lot of it for automation. And yes, some jobs go to Mexico, and yes, some jobs may come to Canada, but a lot of jobs are created with trade in the United States.
Yes.
And I think there's that argument. Or if there's a steel company and it downsizes and it does the same thing with 500 workers, for 2,000 workers, it may be easy to look at other solutions, which may in fact not be correct. And that's what I think. He spoke to that middle class angst, as we call it, and he spoke to that middle class trying to get ahead and may not be feeling those benefits of trade, of growth. And we need to make sure that in Canada, the middle class feels the benefit of economic growth.
Yeah.
You know, we've created
Because there's the bigger pie, the
Exactly.
bigger
Correct.
share.
all these jobs that are being created in Canada, we need to make sure that people are benefiting from them, that the real wages are going up and their families are getting ahead. And that's what Trump spoke to during the election.
So where are we right now? I mean, do you see any positive opportunity ahead?
Well, you know, with NAFTA, I think, you know, in any sort of trade deal, it has to be a give and take on both sides. And it can't just be on one side that demands everything and one side that gives in and everything. So it has to be a give and take. And that's my personal view.
And I think it's important that we don't give in easily.
Well, I think it's important that you go there and provide the evidence of why trade is so important to both
Yes.
sides.
I know. Both of these countries will be affected. Doesn't mean we're gonna lose the N visa.
Yeah.
We have that N visa, right?
The temporary national visa.
Yes, that's the NAFTA visa.
Yes. And
Correct,
I actually worked on that visa when I lived in the United States.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I remember in 2008 when a lot of jobs lost in the U.S. because of the recession, there's a lot of Americans were able to find in Canada.
Yes.
Even us in the hospital, there's a lot of Americans from Florida working there. Really, you're American? Okay, so you're enjoying the NAFTA thing.
Yeah. Well, my understanding, and then the number I heard was over 4,000 Canadians crossed the border to go to Detroit to work on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You know, and you think about that number. You know, it's a very large number.
In general, worst comes to worst, the meeting or the discussion will not be successful. Do you think Canada can sever itself from this agreement?
I wouldn't look at it as severing itself. I would look at it as saying that we need to maintain these
Okay.
these trade and bilateral ties.
It's because it is the policy of the Liberal government, right?
Well, it's a policy that it's for the economic.
Yeah.
Well,
health
U.S.
and
is our
well-being.
major trading partner,
Yeah,
so I think we have to look at that big picture.
Yes.
When we say
yes.
trading partner, there's a lot of jobs that can be lost here,
Yeah.
and we have to protect it too, right?
It's a three-way party. Even Mexico is
Yes.
part of this.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Not
a
only-
lot of the, you know, NAFTA, the benefits of NAFTA have been proven, and I think they need to be reiterated to all
Correct.
sides about how important NAFTA is, even for the Philippines, even for other countries.
Yeah.
NAFTA is it's a trade deal that has worked very well. Now, can we improve on it? Absolutely.
Yes.
And let's hope that we're able to.
Yes.
Okay.
And another thing, okay, I'm looking at the picture. Worst comes to worst. Say, for example, Trump doesn't want to agree on something, and Mexico.
Correct.
Okay, can Canada thrive?
That's
as
my
our
question
own?
earlier,
And-
right? The same question.
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry.
Well, what I would say is, you know, Canada has adopted trade. You know, say with the comprehensive European Free Trade Agreement, where it's Canada and Europe, and you know, Canada, South Korea, Canada, Colombia, Canada, I think Chile. So there are a number of agreements that bilaterally Canada has entered into with other countries, and you know we do have the Canadian Free Trade Agreement with the United States pre-NAFTA. So
Yes,
can
yeah.
Canada
Yeah.
sign other agreement
Yeah,
with countries
okay.
one-on-one? Absolutely.
So I think we'll survive. Okay, so anyway, for the benefit of those late tuners, and we're talking about one topic, which is NAFTA. Just to this is the North American Free Trade Agreement.
Yes.
Yep.
So we keep talking NAFTA, but maybe our listeners doesn't know what's
It
NAFTA.
involves three countries: the United States, Canada, and Mexico.
Yes,
Yeah.
because it's North America, and
Yeah.
from there we enjoy a lot of benefits. For some, they don't avail it. That's why they don't know it. But NAFTA serves a lot of benefits to these three countries because one can find a job from this country.
Yeah, without going to the regular process, you're
Yes.
exempted for the work permit,
Mhm.
labor market impact
The
assessment.
the regular H-1B visa,
Yes,
the working
yes.
visa,
There's a lot.
we're exempted with that because we researched that before. There is an N visa, the NAFTA visa, that you can even just go to the border and present this job offer from say Mexico or US, and then they will just verify and then they will give you the visa to work
Correct.
there. All right, so next topic. That's it. We're rolling, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about. This is more exciting. I think we're gonna get a lot of reaction to this.
We're expecting some questions about this one.
Marijuana. All right. The Trudeau government, Prime Minister is really, he vowed to legalize marijuana across Canada by July 2018 next year. All right. So what's your stand here and what can you say about it?
Well, you know, the first thing I would say to any of your listeners, especially the younger folks, you know, please, you don't have to do marijuana, and I would discourage anyone from taking drugs of that sort. You don't need that in your life. You don't need that to be successful, and it's not a path that I think you should go. And that's my personal opinion, and that's what I tell, and I would tell my kids, Now, there's also the reality that many young folks and many people in Canada smoke marijuana.
Yes.
And on our platform, which obviously I agree with, we need to take away the proceeds of those large amount of monies that are being spent on marijuana,
Yeah.
and take them away from the organized crime.
And make it legal by getting revenue out of it, right?
Yeah, so I'll make it legal, take the revenue away from them, and bring it back to bring it to the government so we can invest.
And make
in,
it regulated.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is a natural step for us to go in. I don't want a 17 or 16-year-old person that has smoked pot to get in trouble with the law and have their future put in jeopardy or ruined to a certain extent. There's no need for that. We don't need to clog the courts with marijuana cases. It just doesn't.
I think we have to put a
Definitely,
separate court
yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't make sense, and do we have to look? Our government's brought forth a very robust package of we're going to put funds in police, making sure people don't smoke and drive, and there's tests available in education process. There's some of the bills in front of the parliament right now.
You mentioned about robust. Some people are asking why so hairy to do this. What's your stand on that?
I wouldn't say there's a hurry. I think it's part of our platform, and we're 2 years in, and it's time. Promise made, promise kept, as we say, and it's something that we need to do. We need to take this away from organized crime. We need to control it. We need to regulate it. We need to look at putting monies into harm reduction, and look at what's happening with opioids.
Yeah.
And people
Yeah.
dying.
Like in BC.
We need
That's the
resources.
case.
Resources dedicated to that versus going after an 18-year-old person that may smoke a few joints or has weed or whatever the term that you want to use.
I've heard some of the stores will be opening by selling this product by next year.
Yes.
Do you think really Ontario is ready for this one by next year?
I believe so. I think yesterday the province of Ontario announced, or LCBO announced,
Yep.
the 14 or 15 store locations that will sell the marijuana, and you know what? This is it's going to change the dynamics of that market.
Aside from LCBO, are you also looking for other outlets?
Each province will decide the distribution.
Oh, okay.
And
But this is national.
this is a national legalization of marijuana.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So speaking of national legalization, if this happens in July 2018,
Yeah.
we will be the first industrialized nation to have this law from production to consumption. We will be the first. You know that?
Well, actually, I believe Portugal has
Yeah, I think
Since when?
some countries.
And-
Because
not-
that's the report Globe and Mail.
and
they said.
Uruguay has done it, and some of the U.S. states, Colorado, I believe Washington State.
No, we're talking about industrialized country.
It'll be a first, and I think it's another thing of Canada looking at an issue, and I have many friends who are first responders, and I've spoken to them. Family members are first responder, and we don't have the resources to control marijuana production and consumption.
Correct.
We just don't. And the best thing is to regulate it, to control it, to take the proceeds away from organized crime, and also discourage kids from doing it. We
Okay,
really
so
need to.
organized crime and then government's in, right? So what revenue are we looking here for the government?
I don't know what the estimates are, but I
For
do
sure, there's a study there.
I do
I
know
heard
that,
around 2 billion.
$2 billion. Well, you know what?
I think that's math. I think
probably
10 billion.
The state of Colorado has done quite well with revenues from marijuana. So, you know what? If we can use those revenues to fund harm reduction, even for opioids, for other programs that benefit Canadians, and the proceeds are taken away from organized crime, then that's great.
Well,
This-
aside aside from the income that the government will be receiving from this marijuana sale, what else do we see as a benefit from this one?
Yeah.
Well, I think we have one of the highest incidence rates of marijuana usage rates, and I think if we can start an educational process of why you shouldn't be using drugs, and also the contamination in drugs that it's happening right now, if we can get a safer type of marijuana to kids or to adults that are smoking, to ensure that they know what they're consuming, that's another benefit as well.
Yeah, they said about recreational use, right? That's the term there. I have a question. can an ordinary household grow marijuana into like a small scale? Is it allowed?
My understanding there, it's up to four plants or
Four plants.
I believe so. I have to go back and check on that, but my understanding is up to 4 plants. But
But do we have people to monitor that?
there are
House
caveats.
by house?
That's
So
a
anybody
good
can
question.
hide, right?
That's
I
another
remember
thing that we
before-
That's a
have
good
to
question.
look into.
Yeah, the
right?
police before, I remember before, they raid one house with all
Yeah.
marijuana in the basement.
Well, and the other thing is, not,
Aside from
not
growing-
not to disagree, but you know what? In BC
And
and
these
in
are-
Ontario,
Okay.
a marijuana house can ruin the house.
Correct.
Right. It can ruin the house. Everything has to be gutted and refurbished. But I think we're being very cognizant of all the factors involved in this law.
Yeah, instead of like growing marijuana, 4 pots of growing marijuana, I've read something that there's a law or policy that you can raise 4 chickens in your house.
There's
I
nothing
think
wrong with
that's better than marijuana, right?
There's nothing wrong with chickens. But we had chickens when we were growing up, and fresh eggs are always good.
Okay, so what about if something went wrong? Or do we have a program or a support study to, accompany or support this? Is there any overdosing with marijuana in your study?
Not the marijuana per se. I don't believe so.
No overdosing.
No, I think you
just
get
the bad smell.
You get the bad smell, and you get really hungry, and you go get
You get your food.
you go eat a lot of food.
Sleepless.
You become
Go
yeah.
sleepless, right?
So no overdosing because it's
I believe that does not
or
the
they
case.
need a lot of.
Unless
a
you
volume,
you
right?
eat a lot of it or something.
So-
something to
How
that
do you
extent.
classify marijuana here in Canada? Is it a regulated drug or prohibited drug?
Right now, I believe
That's a
it's
good
what's
question.
would be
Yeah.
a prohibited drug or an illegal drug, if I'm not mistaken.
So it's not a regulated drug; it's a
No.
prohibited drug.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but there is for medicinal purposes, it is allowed. So
Okay.
so I would determine it as a layman's term, like a everyday use.
Yeah.
I would call it a regulated drug because if you do have medical issues, say PTSD or certain medical conditions, you can get a prescription for medicinal marijuana or medicinal pot.
So what about if I attended the party? If I use one stick, is that okay?
Currently, it'll be.
No, because all the questions I'm asking are, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Because
It's just
we
about
have kids, right?
Some
We have
practical
kids.
questions that might happen every day, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
effectively, come July of 2018, it will
Not,
be
not
legal
even
to.
not even party, right? In just one corner, you take one.
Well, is there
Stick.
implementing rules or regulations out already on how to use it? How to do it?
No, the rules and regulations are out. They're
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
being in legislation, but that'll be come into effect next July of 2018.
Okay, so
Yes.
it's not yet fully implemented, right?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
by July 2018.
But
so
you know,
I-
look, if you go downtown or you walk around, it's very common to have that smell.
Yeah,
It's-
everywhere. I think everywhere.
now even in the apartment, if you're living
Go to
in
the
an
parks.
apartment,
you can
you'll
smell
smell
it.
all this thing.
Yeah,
You know,
No,
and
I think that's
and other people doesn't like it.
No,
Let's face about it. Now,
Yes.
for the Filipino community, let's talk about the elderly. Okay, the abuse side and the morality side, most parents doesn't want it. So what's your stand there? How could you convince these voters comes election in 2020? Maybe marijuana is one of the biggest issue.
yes.
So what are you going to tell them?
I would tell them the same thing that I tell my kids. My kids are a little bit young, but I would tell them, look, we're bringing in a policy that tries to make sure that kids aren't going to organized crime if they're going to try this, first of all. So we don't want kids getting in trouble with the law and clogging up the courts. That does I don't want a 16 or 17-year-old person getting in trouble for going to buy a joint from some dealer on the street corner. We don't want that, and we don't want. At the same time, we need to put an educational process of saying, look, doing drugs is not
Not
gonna
good.
not to use not even good, but not good for your future. Not the way you should go, and stuff, and we need to do that, but
Yeah.
also recognizing that there are some medical benefits from using marijuana for many people, and that there are recreational users. And we don't want kids. We don't want them, especially at the younger age, harming any development of their brain
Correct,
and so forth. And we need to get that education out there. And if we can generate some of those revenues that are going to organized crime for those type of programs and those type of educational programs, to let families know, let kids know, let parents know some of the reasons, not reasons, but some of the indications their children may be using
Yeah.
marijuana, to educate them as well. And then I think it's a win-win all around. We want to reduce the incidence of use of all drugs, and I think that's a blanket statement. Much like smoking, we want to continue to reduce the amount people smoke. out there because we know of the impact with smoke. But with marijuana, it's one of those things where we have limited resources in government, and I would say, you know what, let's legalize it. And it's always been my opinion for a very, very long time. Let's legalize it. Let's control it. Let's regulate it. Let's get the revenues and take them away from organized crime, and let's use those revenues for harm reduction, whether it's in marijuana, whether it's in hard drugs, whether it's in opioids, which are literally killing people every day.
Okay.
We got bigger fish to fry.
Yes, this is a law which will be possibly implemented by July 2018, and you said it's all about control and regulating this thing, right? But we have an existing problem already in BC, especially the opioid addiction, opioid cases. Some are dying. Are we not adding another scenario? Because there's an opioid problem in BC, but we can control it easily. And in fact, they set up clinic wherein they can inject legally. So do you think are we helping, or are we creating another problem in the future here?
No, we're helping, and I think no, we're definitely helping. I think with this issue here, you can push resources now that were for, say, marijuana control or policing to areas like that, and harm reduction. You get some more resources in harm reduction. And I would say that the thing about opioid crisis is not just about injecting marijuana. It's about fentanyl and chemically made drugs that are coming in that are, a small grain of salt or two can literally kill somebody. It can literally, you can literally die from doing a very small amount, and we need to be worried about those types of things. Someone smoking a joint, it's not going to, you're going to smoke a joint.
That's scary, eh?
So the opioids thing is something that our government's very focused on. We've been working with the provinces on it, and it's affecting the United States. It's affecting us, and we're very aware as a government, and I know our health minister, our public safety minister are on top of it, and we're putting the resources in that we need to do. At the same time, there's some very, 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 very sad cases.
Serious cases,
my hearts go out to those families that have been impacted.
Yes, serious cases, because I love watching documentary. Okay, when CBC is doing that, or CTV, they're just steady, and they're interviewing people, and also what's happening somewhere part of Canada, and this is one of the problems, the opioid. Recently in the U.S., they were already alerted about this, what's happening with the opioid emergency
60,000 people have died,
I know.
I think.
So, so this is a major problem that I think government has to focus on. And here comes another marijuana legalization. Okay, the purpose is there to regulate, take it away from the organizer, syndicated crime, and bring that money to the government, and put it in the right way. That's the liberal, politics, as they call it. Opposition, of course, they're going to use this to win the next election. You know that, right? So I hope the liberals were able to deal with this and defend it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to say that my opponent in the last federal election, the former chief of police, has now come onto our side and joined some
so he's supporting you now.
board of directors on marijuana, and he's been quoted in the paper that his view has been changed. And this is not me speaking for him. This is him speaking for himself. That his view has changed on the whole marijuana legalization.
So does this mean he's moving to the liberals now?
Well, I don't know about that, but and it's good to see.
Probably.
Yeah, because if your view has changed, politics is all about ideology, what you believe in, and you fight for. You tend to fight for it, right? Because conservative and liberals, well, obviously you are two opposing factor. There's always debate. Debate is good. Opposition is good.
Yes.
Because there's a discussion. It's good for certain bills to become a law.
Yes.
And well, like what I'm saying, the purpose that marijuana is one of the sensitive issue, and even me, even others, the morning host for 9 o'clock, he has question about this marijuana thing too. So other programs is okay. Immigration is another sensitive issue, and you explained it already. And so yeah, I think. Do you have any other question?
Well, then let's just wait for July 2019 for the regulations to be implemented. I have a lot of questions actually, even for the maximum minimum
so we're going to reserve
penalty,
it for Francesco.
Penalty, the fine.
So he can
involved.
come back here.
Yeah, sure. And on the marijuana issue, I do hear about it from my constituents. And
that's my question too.
Yeah, definitely. I hear those concerns. I've heard it when I've been in the line at the airport. As parents ask me, and I always answer, look, I am a father of 2 daughters. I do not want my kids smoking marijuana or pot. That is just, that's something I will educate them about and educate them as well as I can. And I want resources to educate them. And I think we could be doing a better job on that front.
Yeah.
And we want to ensure some of the older individuals who have very strong views on this, that look, we're not putting marijuana in we're not in every corner store. That's not the policy. The policy is to control it and regulate it, generate the revenues that we need to educate people about, hey, we have the highest incidence of use, and let's start bringing that down and making sure kids are making the right decision and people are making the right decision on choices.
All right.
And before we close in, okay, so you have this sensitive issue, immigration. You have marijuana on the other side, and then NAFTA is neutral because that's between two countries. The last 5 polls, the Liberals still up, which is good, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what? And look, governing is about making tough choices.
Correct.
It's about making the right choices and listening. And and I think and I'm proud to serve with Prime Minister Trudeau, who's off to the Philippines next week.
Yes.
Yes.
He'll be
for-
visiting the
For
beautiful.
the ASEAN summit, I believe.
Yes, and he's off to the Philippines and to nurture those bilateral ties. And look, our economy is doing quite well.
Yes.
And as an economist, someone who worked in finance, we've created nearly 500,000 jobs. That's easy to throw numbers around, but these are people. This is someone getting a job and having a brighter future for their kids and their family and for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what being in public life or politics is all about.
And immigration set aside other negative things. It's all about building Canada.
Absolutely.
There are rules. It's not easy to come here in Canada, right? You have something with you to come here and help build Canada, right? It's not just like, like what he said. We're always talking about immigration. You
Correct.
think coming Canada is easy? There's a lot of benefits in Canada, right? The healthcare, the education, but this is not easy unless you prove that you're qualified to come in. That means you have something to contribute in our economy, right? So maybe some people doesn't understand that. In the liberal perspective, I think we have to look at the bigger picture too, right? There's a lot of baby boomers retiring. Some of them are retired. So if we don't replenish, what's going to happen with us?
Well,
That's a complete deficit, right?
Absolutely. We won't have people to pay for those programs, like Canada Pension Plan and healthcare. We need workers. We need
Yes.
workers to generate those revenues to pay for the programs that people that are retiring into, and it's demographics. And Canada faces, a tough situation on that front. The headwinds from demographics are there. These are numbers that are there. They tell the story, and whatever political party you're in, that immigration is one of the ways that we can solve it. We can have people having more babies.
Yes.
And the Canada Child Benefit helps quite a bit
Yeah.
with middle and low income families. But immigration needs to be that add-on to ensure we have a growing population and a growing base to support those people going into retirement.
It's really a tough choice, all right?
Aside from that,
Tough choice to defend certain issues.
Aside from that, the government's welcoming a lot of immigrants for the next 3 years. I think one important thing that has to be focused on also by the Liberals is the how to redistribute these immigrants evenly to the 10 provinces
by
and the
provinces and
territories in Canada
territories.
without being concentrated in one province
Yeah.
or one
Yes.
city.
And that's important because
Yeah.
we have housing issues in the GTA,
Yeah.
affordability, supply. I know my colleagues from Atlantic Canada have put in a pilot project for
Correct.
2,000
Yeah.
2,000
in
thousand
fact.
immigrants. But we want, if we can get those folks to go there because there's jobs there for
Yeah.
them, we also need them to stay there, not just go there and move away, stay there for 3, 4, 5 years and then move to Toronto because they're other families in Toronto. We need to ensure that they have those opportunities to stay, to
Correct.
thrive. There's great universities in the East Coast,
Or maybe
great
because we have the
industries.
Niagara Falls, that's why they all want to come here. What do you think?
Well, they want to come for the taste of Manila.
Yeah, that's another thing, right? Along Bathurst and Wilson.
Yes.
But anyway, we're having a big event here in the city of Vaughan.
Excellent.
But we're doing here, right here in our compound. There's 2 soccer field there. So comes July 3rd week next year. So there will be a big event happening for the Filipino Canadian residents.
I look forward to attending with a pure humbleness and humility, and partaking with the lovely Filipino community, which I've decades of ties with growing up in northern BC, and the Filipino, as I was saying, the Filipino dance that had annual dance that happens.
Are you a good
in Prince
dancer?
Rupert.
Tinikling.
Not bad. It's just it's a lot of they're Filipinos love dancing. They love music.
Music,
You look
yes.
at the,
And
the-
food.
and food,
Food,
And all-
music, just like Italian.
Exactly.
The family values.
Well,
that.
I'm
family
sure
values,
you will
absolutely.
always be welcomed by the Filipino community.
I know.
here.
I know.
With all humbleness.
It's,
Yeah.
it's not hard to deal with. So
Yeah.
anyway, we're so happy to have you in our radio program and also the station. Your message now to your constituents at Vaughan Woodbridge.
You know, if I can leave this one, and this goes to all my constituents, the kids out there, whether they're the Filipino kids or whatever community you belong to, however you come to Canada, is aim high.
Yeah.
Aim high. Do well. Make your community proud. Make us in Canada proud, especially the folks that have immigrated over and their parents did and they sacrificed. Aim high. Make the right choices. Study hard. Work hard. Play hard. Have fun. But aim high in whatever pursuit that you pursue, and that's been my message to all the kids, in my community, all the youth in my community, the millennials. Aim high, do well, because we have a lot of fantastic opportunities in Canada for people to succeed and pursue whatever their passion is.
Very well said.
Beautiful.
Yep.
All right. So I guess we're closing the program now. Earl, do you have any word?
Yes, you're always welcome here, Francesco, with the community, Filipino community, and you can always come back
Yes.
for another round for the interview. We can
This
go to
building
the,
here is the voice of the Filipino people in Vaughan, right? You know that.
we can talk the finer details of the issues we talk about earlier.
Yes.
With
More
pleasure,
topics.
with pleasure, and I'll always be at your disposition.
Our pleasure.
Yes. The
Thank
door
you.
is always open for you, Francesco.
Thank you, sir.
All right, it's been a pleasure. So folks, another episode of Business and Politics, 30 minutes. So
That was fast.
see you back in commercial break. No commercial break.
Buhay Migrante.
We're gonna see you back next week for another episode of Business and Politics. In the meantime, coming right up is Buhay Migrante. All right, so stay put. We'll be pausing for a break.
Inyong natunghayan ang isa na namang kabanata ng Business and Politics in 30 Minutes. BP in 30. Hanggang sa susunod na Sabado, ganap na alas 11 hanggang alas 11:30 ng umaga, Eastern Standard Time. Dito lamang sa PinoyRadio.com, a division of MCBNI, Media Concept Broadcasting Network Incorporated. Business and Politics in 30 Minutes. Kung ikaw ay bibigyan ng kalahating oras lamang para ipalaganap o